Welcome, South Indian to North India. I usually teasing my Indian friend. They generally Indian brains, something very special. Judging, you see, different civilization, different part of the world. I think the real contributor in sort of complicated philosophical field, I think Indian, I think the biggest contributor, right? One time, a few years ago, in Delhi, because of Dharamsala, Rajaraman, a nuclear physicist. Once he told me some Nagarjuna's work, he found the concept of quantum physics already there. As an Indian, he feels proud. The idea of quantum physics in this country, even the 2,000 years ago, already found or already get that kind of concept, he told me. So Indian brain, something special. And then judging, you see, these are the painting Nalanda masters, like Nagarjuna, Aryadeva, Buddha Palita, all these Nalanda masters. So I consider these people, from the Buddhist viewpoint, these are Buddhist masters. One side, they are great sort of philosopher and thinker and also scientist. All their research work based on reason, experiment, not based on Buddha's quotation. Buddha himself is made clear, oh my follower, bhikshus, scholars should not accept my teaching out of faith, out of devotion, but rather thorough investigation and experiment. So these are great academicians. So most of these people from South India. So within Indian, the South Indian brain is even more sort of special. So now I have the opportunity of welcoming some bright student from Madras, South India. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So now this is not sort of just a formal talk, right? Not that way. Just a complete informal, personal sort of meeting. So any your sort of questions or suggestions, most welcome. Like that. Now start.
Introduction.
Oh, introduction. Okay.
Hello.
No.
So we are students of University of Madras from Department of Politics and Public Administration, and our students are pursuing their MA and PhD programs in Political Science, Public Administration, and International Relations. The students of our department are from different nations, like India, Tibet, Burma, France, and China. So we are here to study about the Tibetan exile government, the NGOs, and almost all of us have one personal interest too, that is to meet you in person and to get your blessings. Now I invite the students to ask questions.
Tashidale. I'm Ramya, doing my second year MA Political Science in the University of Madras. Okay, my question is, the interaction which I had with the Tibetans, I understood that the preservation of culture is very important according to you Tibetans. But the culture changes from time to time through ages, and the culture is also adopting to the prevailing situation of the society and the world too. So in this context, now China is in the phase or already adopted capitalism in their country, and if Tibet becomes a part of the autonomous region of China, Chinese government, you'll be coming under the framework of capitalism. So in that case, how would you interpret your culture with that of capitalism? Will you hold the same, or you'll try to adopt it with that of the existing capitalist culture?
Capitalism or socialism, that's a matter of money, matter of economy. When I say culture, of course, like Tibetan songs, right? Tibetan songs, dance, this also is a part of culture. But the real essence of culture is not that, these things. The Tibetan culture, usually I describe Buddhist culture. I make distinction. Buddhism, Buddhist culture. Buddhism is concerned for individual business, as a religion, as a faith. Although when I use the word religion or faith, not like other sort of the religion. Most of the world religion is a theistic religion, very much based on faith. The Indian religions, like Sangha religion, not just religion, not just faith, but a lot of philosophical sort of explanation, philosophical concept, and Jainism as well, and Buddhism also. Differences, Buddhism and Jainism, philosophical sort of complicated philosophy, these are common, but differences, Atma and Anatma. Otherwise, it's a logic, same. Practice of samadhi, same. Practice of vipassana, same. So in any way, now Buddhism, as I mentioned earlier, individual sort of the business. Buddhist culture related with the society. Now, what is the essence of Buddhist culture? Warm-heartedness, honest, truthful. If I do harm other, I will get negative consequences. If I do help, serve other, I will get benefit. That's the essence of Buddhist culture. So Buddhist culture is not just the economy. An economy field also Buddhist culture, if you have Buddhist culture, economy, honest, carry economic business, carry honestly, no corruption. Corruption and Buddhist culture cannot go together. Of course, other religion also. I often now these days telling Indian, comparatively, Indians are more religious sort of people. But number of Indians who practice puja and recite some shlokas of Sanskrit, but often they don't care about corruption. That's big contradiction. If you believe God, if you believe Dharma, then should not involve corruptions. If you really interested about money and whatever way to gain money, including corruption, then don't practice Dharma. So, with moral principle, that's Buddhist culture. And culture of peace, culture of justice, right? Culture of truth, right? Honest and non-violence. That's culture, essence of Buddhist culture, Tibetan culture. The economy field, whether capitalism or socialism, doesn't matter. Both, capitalism also has certain sort of, dynamic force, a good part. And socialism, also there's a good part. Like that. So no problem. Next question.
His Holiness, I also would like to ask you one question. My name is Moses from Burma.
Oh.
I'm doing PhD second year in University of Madras. I read that you helped Nigerese victims in Myanmar in 2008. I read news. I got news from internet that you helped Myanmar people in 2008. So on behalf of the Nigerese cyclo victims in Myanmar, I also would like to say thank you so much. And my question is, you talked to...
Yes, right. Oh.
You talked to one of Burmese Buddhists in New Delhi last year. You would like to visit to Myanmar, particularly Suitako Pagoda. So it is a very good message for us. It's a kind of blessings for us. So my question is, if you would like to visit to Myanmar, do you think that the government of Myanmar will give you visa or not because of China's pressure?
That I don't know. That I don't know. And also I told in Delhi, when I met the Supreme Head, Sangaraja Obama, I told him, if government side, okay, then I very much keen make pilgrimage to Burma. Because I had some sort of reasons. Like one Indian, Goenkaji, his center near Bombay. So his practice of Vipassana, mainly Vipassana, is the Burmese lineage. And then also last few years, some Tibetan monk had opportunity, pilgrims to Burma. So they very much impressed the very strong tradition of Buddhism and Buddhist monks. So, of course, I had few occasions visit Thailand, really wonderful. So both the follower of Theravada tradition. So Theravada tradition is the foundation of Buddha Dharma. So I'm very keen. So at my meeting, the Dhamaraja, I told, if Chinese, if the government, Burmese government feel okay, then I very much want pilgrimage, like that. So I don't know. After election, we'll see.
Next question.
My name is Alice. I come from France, and I want to give my life for the well-being of the humanity. But sometimes I feel desperate, hopeless. I don't know what to start with, and if I believe that I would never give up, but I just don't know what to do. Do you face this stage of helplessness? And what do you do when you don't know how to achieve your goals?
Firstly, the sort of the goal which we want. That should be truthful, honest, something beneficial to more people or others, not selfish reason. Then, whether that goal achieved within one's own lifetime or not, different question. We are human beings. I usually describe, I belong 20th century. My generation belongs to 20th century. I think most of you, how old are you?
38.
38. Then I think still belongs to 21st century. So my generation now belongs to 20th century. So 20th century gone. Now, past is past, just memory. Future depends on present. And the future of humanity depends on present the generation of the humanity. So, now look back 20th century, too much bloodshed. First World War, Second World War, you French people suffer immense, and whole European people. I just met some German friend. They really suffer, and Russia. And many of the problems today we are facing in Europe or some sort of the European continent or Asia, including Tibet. Of course, the Tibetan problem, not something mistake due to Tibetan, but you see, Chinese brothers, sisters, of course, Chinese brothers, sisters, basically another good human brothers, sisters, but the system, totalitarian, closed society. The Chinese people themselves, no opportunity to know the reality. So that's the problem. So in any way, all these problems, you see, due to these problems, mainly the symptoms of past mistake and past negligence. Now, 21st century, it's just the beginning. Now, 11 years passed. Now, because they are 89 years. 89 years yet to come. So there is opportunity to make preparation for better world, better century. So you, young French, so you have opportunity to make some contribution, better world. So it is such goal. It's moral issue. No related with whether if you see this some goal materialized within my lifetime, I make effort. If it is impossible to materialize my lifetime, then there's no bother. That's a mistake. The individual, good clothes or good food, and a few sort of happy picnics, that's okay. Okay. Such case, little sort of disappointment, it doesn't matter. So the bigger thing, once our goal is something reasonable, something benefit to larger people, decide whether achieve easily or not, determined. That I do.
And how do you know what to start with?
Yes.
How do you know what to start with? How do you know where to start? Because when the goal is...
I usually call, since 20th century become like a century of bloodshed, century of violence. Now this century, 21st century, should be century of peace. Peace means not achieved through prayer, not through United Nations resolution. But peace, since the opposite of peace is violence. Violence not due to the nature disaster, that is something different. But the violence due to our own behavior with weapon, that's the real destroyer of peace. So, now whether you see develop peaceful world or violent world, ultimately entirely depend on human being. Human action. Human action, if your mind peaceful, even here one weapon, never use. Here, full of fear, full of anger, full of hatred, even just one stone may use that. So the proper way, long-term, proper way to develop peaceful world must start here. Not resolution, not or prayer, but individual like you yourself. Try to cultivate peaceful mind, compassionate mind. Then create your own family, peaceful family. 1 family, 10 families, 100 families. That way, create peaceful community. So that's the way to create peaceful world. So once this is peace of mind there, and you carry all your activities honest, truthful, then automatically come transparently. Then reduce fear, reduce anxiety, increase self-confidence. Because of you carry truthful, compassionate. So you have full confidence, full of inner strength, no fear. Clear? So like that. So with that, meaningful dialogue can develop. Full of fear, full of distrust, how can develop dialogue? Like Syria, how difficult. I think both sides full of distrust and anger, difficult, like that. So in Tibet case also is the Chinese, full of fear. They're very powerful, a lot of weapon, but deep inside, full of fear, full of distrust, like that. That's the weakness. Our side, truth, honest, non-violence. This is our power, right? Our strength. So some occasion I express our struggle, very nature of our struggle is the struggle between power of honest, power of compassion, and power of gun. For temporary, power of gun is much stronger. Long run, power of truth is much, much stronger. Clear? Like that. So that's my own case. So you also, as you think about humanity and how to build a happy world. Like that. You're from Japan?
No, I'm from China.
Oh, mainland China. 中国大陆.
Yeah.
Oh.
I study at the University of Madras. So my question is, what do you think about the relationship between China government and the Tibetan government in the future?
After 2000, 2008 crisis, I publicly express now my faith towards Chinese government. Now, thinner. Now these days, almost now my faith completely gone. But Chinese people, at that time, since then, I publicly express, we never shaken our faith towards Chinese people. Chinese people, long history, and hardworking, realistic. Sometimes I teasing, you see, my Indian friend, wherever Chinese sort of community there, they eventually create Chinatown. Why not Indian? Big number Indian in England, in New York, in different part of America. But you never, you see, create Indian town. So I often, you see, telling when I meet, you see, Indian community, kasa, England, koso moguyus kasa, Rochester, Birmingham, yes, like that. Number of Indian. And in foreign country, Indian, Pakistanis, Bangladesh live together, isn't it? So they should, you see, have some kind of meeting from time to time, gather together, and then make sort of refreshment about ahimsa and religious harmony within India. Like Kerala, you can see one Christian family, one Brahmin family, and Muslim family, like that, remain together. Of course, occasionally you see on newspaper some sort of tragedy, communal survey, communal problems. Here and there, immediately published. But the millions or billions of Indians, if you look closely, I think still carry the spirit of harmony among all these different religious traditions. So this must make clear wherever you live. And then invite more sort of local people, white people, and let them participate. India's sort of 1,000-year-old tradition, ahimsa, and religious harmony. So in any way, I never shaken my faith towards Chinese people. Chinese government, now one hopeful sign, the Wen Jiabao Prime Minister, Wen Jiabao Zhongli, I never met. I think all these new generation of Chinese leaders, I think no one have, I think, personal blessing or friendship with Chairman Mao. I have. 1954年, 1955年, I spent at least 5 to 6 months in Peking. So during that period, I met, I think, 20, 30 meetings, Chairman Mao. Very close friend. He considered me as his own son. Then later, I also developed some kind of feeling. I consider him as my father. Very nice, very nice. I really admire as a great revolutionary. But then later, I think his own power spoiled himself. Like that. So in any way, so now I don't know. I told some Chinese these days, their policy inside Tibet, based on full ignorance, full of ignorance. They do not know. It's a Tibetan mind. No. So, the Tibetan spirit come from Buddha Dharma. I told some Chinese, Buddha Dharma, more than 2,600 years. Marxism, only 200 years. on this planet, interest about Buddhism is growing. Even in France. Just, I think, 2 hours ago, I met some Russians from Moscow, white Russian, Buddhist. I always asking these people, please keep your own traditional religion. Don't change. Don't convert other religion. In spite that, increasing new Buddhist from traditionally non-Buddhist community. So interest about Buddhism is growing. I think on the market, the Marxism, now customer reduce. Isn't it? In Europe, I heard that the capitalism facing some problem. Some people, you see, little sort of questions about capitalism. So I think 2 years ago, I heard Karl Marx, Das Kapital, that book, more customer to buy. I heard. In France, I don't know. In France, the socialist, sometimes you see the Spanish communist quite big, then the French communist. So now, what is the situation about French communist?
It's growing. It's growing.
Growing.
Yeah.
And I know number of sort of Italian communists. But they, when we discuss, I also, as far as socio-economy theory is concerned, I am Marxist. But I am not a Leninist. So these Italian communists also is exactly the same. They believe Karl Marx, not Lenin. So anyway, so when Jobos seems to see lay down foundation, he strongly mentioned political reform in China. Even he warned, unless you political reform carry, another cultural revolution may return. I think this is a serious warning. Then, within days, because of Porcelain, the mayor of Chongqing, very sort of, very hardliner, he dismissed. So things will be changing. Things will be changing. So we'll wait another few years. I think things will change. In any way, any sensible Chinese, if they know about the reality of Tibet, then things will, within few days, will solve. I think after 89, I think early 90, I met some Chinese students and also some professors at Harvard University. I met about 200 Chinese. Then, afterward, you see, I think about 20, some teachers, and also some students from the Tengamin movement. So then we sat and discussed, and I explained about my midway approach. After they listened, my sort of ideas, my sort of our policy, our practice. Then they say, if this sort of your proposal, your sort of way of approach, knows Chinese people, then entire Chinese people will support you. And then very recent, just I think 2-3 months ago, I received one letter from one Chinese. In his own handwriting, he mentioned, it looks, you see, brilliant and educated. You see, he mentioned in his writing, previously he felt you, Dalai Lama, as a religious person, but at the same time, splittist politically. spiritist. Only after he met one Tibetan at Wutai, that Tibetan explained about Dalai Lama's middle wave approach. Then he mentioned, this is your sort of wave approach to solving Tibetan problem. This knows, because of that, if it's known to Chinese people, all Chinese people will support you. It mentioned that. So just 2 hours ago, I met one Tibetan who visited his own native area and also some Chinese cities. Since he's dressed Tibetan monks sort of dress, so number of Chinese, you see, the first sort of meeting, little cautious. Then through talks, when they realize he come from India, then many of the Chinese with tear and ask different questions without fear. Then he mentioned about, you say, Dalai Lama's way of thinking, way of approach, middle way of approach. Many of the Chinese he met and expressed, they never heard, you see, this, only government propaganda. So after they heard his explanation, then everybody tear, and they very much want to see Dalai Lama and fully support about middle way of approach. So that's the Chinese people. So I often use it expressing publicly, 1.3 billion Chinese people have every right to know the reality. Once Chinese people knows the reality, they also have the ability to judge what's right, what's wrong. So the government, totalitarian government, heavy censorship is immoral, actually fooling Chinese people. There are censorship. You cannot censor, cannot take censorship outside the world. Even in India, they cannot do. So actually the censorship fooling their own people. It's immoral. They call people's government, Rinmintinfu. And then also, you see, their expenditure about internal security is bigger than defense budget. Shameful. That means they admit real enemy is within the country. What is that? Is it? Really? This kind of policy is really self-destruction. Eventually, the Chinese people will never accept that. That's my belief. So, once these things change, then new relations will develop like that. No hurry. 60 years passed. Whole my life. At the age 16, this problem started. Now 60 years passed with Tibetan spirit, even becoming stronger, stronger, stronger. Clear? So no, only question of time. The Chinese authorities, when they develop little bit the common sense develop, then they will realize their mistakes. Then another thing I'm telling, the Chinese judiciary system must raise up to international judiciary system. That's important. A few months ago, you see, immediately after my announcement about my reincarnation, about the future of my reincarnation, I formally sort of statement I made. So at the same time, one Canadian television team which came And that lady interviewer asked me, after my sort of announcement, some Chinese officials described that as illegal. And what is my comment? And then I told, there's no rule in China, no rule. Just the party's control. That's not rule. I think India, the judiciary system is something completely independent from the government. Not only parties sort of rule, even the government is completely independent, isn't it? And the Indian army, truly, India's army, not Congress army. The Chinese Liberation Army is party's army. It's sad. It's really sad. At the beginning, maybe some reason. Now, after 60 years, I think now time must change. Otherwise, will not come genuine respect from the rest of the world. In China, People's Republic of China is really most populated ancient nation, and economically also now growing. So in order for China have, I think, great future, make a significant contribution on global level. In order to carry that, trust, respect from the rest of the world is highly necessary. Former Soviet Union, weapon, very strong, that never brought respect or trust from Western world, isn't it? Like that. Or rest of the world, very difficult. India have some special relations with the Soviet Union, isn't it? Some particular reasons, that's understandable. Now, next question. I think too long, my answer. Yes?
Taishidile, Your Holiness.
You from?
I'm from Northeast India. Northeast part of India.
Right.
Okay. People made war based on religion. So, what are the remedial suggestions can you give in order to stop this religion-based war?
Just I mentioned, India, I think generally among different religious sort of people, generally very good sort of harmony. A few years ago, on my meeting, Advani, former Deputy Prime Minister, since of course we know, so casual talks. So he mentioned 1,000 years, India have the tradition of secular ethics. That also, you see, not only respect all religion, but also respect non-believer. He mentioned Charvaka is nihilism, some nihilist sort of school of thought. So rest of Indian sort of city, ancient sort of philosopher, very much criticized, critical. But people who hold Charvaka philosophy, that's nihilist, refer Rishi. Rishi means sage. So that indicates respect them. So that's India's tradition. I think the environment, India, even before Buddha, already there are different religious traditions already there. Now I think today, one clear example, Parsi, people who practice Zoroastrianism. In Bombay, I think they are biggest population in Bombay. I know many of them. So the population less than 100,000. But no fear. less than 100,000, very few small, very, very, very few sort of community, very small community, but no fear. They last 1,000 years, they happily settled there. Not only they happy as an Indian, but also made great contribution for for the nation, like militarily, Manekshaw, Parsi. And then Tata, also Parsi, isn't it? So that's, I think, clear example. A very small community who follow different religious tradition, but no persecution there, no fear. So that's a living sort of example. We can live together. So those areas, people a little bit isolated. The environment, only one religion, and isolated. Then sometimes, you see, the other religious tradition sometimes create some kind of threat from their own because of faith, like that. That's, I think, a lack of knowledge. I think will change. That's my view. Next question. Ram Pepper, Pepper name. Ah, Merukonga, oh. Could you remember it? Yeah.
Justly, His Holiness. My name is Chile Tundru, and I'm studying international relations. My question is, as said before, here we have some different nationalities students, and we are studying together as one department in university. And they know pretty good about Tibet. Also, some of them have interest about Tibet. Also, this time they came here to study about Tibetan exile government and NGO. But mostly, after knowing about Tibet, they don't know what to do. So, Your Holiness kindly advise some, after knowing about Tibet, what they can do for Tibet or to support Tibetan cause, and as we are Tibetan, what we can expect from them.
I think firstly, make known about the reality, about Tibet's situation, and the very nature of Tibetan struggle. My own sort of special interest is preservation of Tibetan culture, Buddhist culture, culture of peace, culture of non-violence, culture of compassion. So that kind of culture not only concerned for 6 million Tibetan people, but also billion Chinese people also. Look in China, a lot of injustice, isn't it? A lot of sort of corruptions. So money, more because of that. I mean, number of Chinese sort of because of that. Economic condition improve. That's also good. But too much competition and corruptions. So my main concern is the preservation of Tibetan Buddhist culture and environment. Major rivers which cover almost whole Asia. Mekong River, Yellow River, and then Brahmaputra, and these Sindh. All these major rivers ultimately come from Tibetan regions. So these two things, preservation or threat of Tibetan culture. Nowadays, I think about 3 years ago, this is some Chinese sort of policy. The whole Tibetan area, Tibetan schools should teach all subjects through Chinese. and Tibetan language, Tibetan study, just a language. When Tenguyen came to Lhasa, in 90s, Tenguyen, one hardliner, when he came to Lhasa, then later I was told by some Tibetan who are working in Lhasa Tibetan University. They told me after Tenguyen come, some classical Tibetan study, Tibetan text, banned. Only text translated from Chinese text. So at that time, later is some Tibetan described, semi-cultural revolution is now coming. So after that, Kasago, Zhang Jilin, similar hardliner. So this hardliner policy actually causing, direct causing about 2008 crisis. Now that hardliner policy still is continuing. So there are sort of whole sort of thinking. The Tibet, so long Tibetan, different language, different script remain, and different Tibetan culture remain. They see that source of threat of separation. That's totally wrong. I often telling the Chinese friend, look India. You yourself used to from Northeast. Assam? Or Nagaland. So you have your own language, isn't it? So Assamese, they have their own language. And Oriya, their own language. Then South India, Malayalam, Tamil, their own language. Even their own script. Then Gujarati, Marathi, different language. So India, East, South, West, North, different languages, some cases different script, but no threat, separation. There are common interests there. Equality, democracy, freedom of speech. Occasionally some problems, but overall, no threat, except Kashmir. That's due to Pakistan. Otherwise, very stable. So China must learn how to keep unity without eliminate these different sort of identity. Clear? Like that. So make more awareness about environment issue and Tibetan culture. So the interest will grow and will remain. The immediate sort of solution have to deal with Chinese government. Now, this moment, almost impossible. Even United Nations try to make resolution. Of course, veto immediately come, like Syrian problem, isn't it? United States or European Unions, very much sympathetic, really want to do something, but there's limitation. So even these big nations, this is found difficult to pursue China. So then, very difficult. This moment, very difficult. But you see, as I mentioned, long run, we have the truth. And still, in this, in this world or in humanity, still the value of truth, still in people's level, still there. Government level, sometimes money is more important than moral principles. That's unfortunate, but it is fact, it is reality. Okay, that went on. Thank you. So, oh yes, your last question now. Last question.
My question is regarding religious. So you told religions won't allow to corruption.
No.
So
I
religious
think,
believers.
yes, no. No religion's text say injustice work, dishonest way.
Okay.
Oh, it's okay. No God say that. No religious text say that. Yes?
Then in Indian culture, in Indian believers, they practice caste system, and in that there corruption with slave ideas. Slaves. The sutra,
No.
something like that. In the caste system, they practice, and the female domination also in the
Yes?
system.
Caste system is totally wrong.
But Bhagavad Gita,
Even Chemna Mozatung one time told me he considered Buddha Shakyamuni was revolutionary. He against caste system. Chemna Mo told me like that. So it is true. So caste system is something backward. It's a mistake. So we have to change. And then also dowry, practice of dowry. These are drawbacks. We must change. And the religious leader should come, speak forcefully, and educate public. It is not sufficient just their own, the temple or monastery, and carry some pujas, carry some rituals. Not sufficient. Must come. We have to talk with the public, younger generation, about real essence of Dharma. Like that. This is my view.
okay, you accept Marx. Then Marx told religion is the optimum of people. What do you think about this?
Opium said,
Yeah.
that is, and even I think French Revolution, some sort of the negative attitude towards religion. That's not religion, but religious institution. Look, Bolshevik revolution. I don't think they have reasons to against compassion or love, forgiveness, tolerance. These are the essence practice of religion. So no one, even Karl Marx, why? See, he mentioned, he expressed very much concern about working class people's right. That's the act of compassion, isn't it? Oh, act of equality. So the good part of Marxism itself is the essence of all religious sort of practice, like that. But then religious institution corrupted. During Bolshevik Revolution, the Russian Tsar and elite people, they carry exploitation in the name of God or church. I think French Revolution, French kings, also, you see, use the name of God. Isn't it?
It was the incarnation. The incarnation of
Oh, so in order to, against that existing institution in the name of religion, in order to carry against the ruling class, their sort of source of blessing or source of power, God. So you have to you have to raise some kind of courage to against God. This is my view. So all those critics, and one time my visit Mongolia, then still a communist and the former Soviet Union. So part of my sort of program, through one museum. So in the museum, one sort of drawing, painting, one monk mouth open. Then working class people eating. Oh? Oh? Kasa? Oh. So that is true. Nowadays, some Tibetan had the name of Lama from Tibet, went to China, exploiting money, sex. About 15, I think 20 years ago, one Chinese Buddhist from mainland China came to see me and told me, nowadays, some people, they themselves call Dharma Raja from Tibet, came to China and give some teaching and call themselves as a sort of supreme religious head. Now, then many Buddhist, Chinese Buddhists, devoted. Eventually, these people actually seeking money and sex. He told me, oh, Dalai Lama should do something. And I told, I'm here in India. These wrongdoings inside Tibet, I cannot do. The only thing, you Chinese Buddhist, you must know the detailed detailed description of qualification or quality of proper teacher. Then someone from Tibet or any other way who calls something, examine whether these people have these qualifications, whether they are or not. Then really qualified person, then you consider as your guru and receive teaching. So I told them like that. And then recently I received one information. Some Tibetan, again is called High Lama, actually selling some kind of kasura. There wasn't a guide to some kind of paradise. Huh? 200,000 yawns, small paper. These are really exploiter in the name of religion. We have to against such people. Clear? Like that. So we must make distinction, religious institution and religion itself. I think nobody, any sensible person cannot sort of against religions, because all religion, despite different philosophy, practice of love, compassion, forgiveness, tolerance, contentment, self-discipline, and serving other people, all religion, same. In the philosophical field, big differences. Within Buddhist philosophy, there are differences. Vibhashik philosophy, Sautrantic philosophy, Chittamantra philosophy, and Madhyamika philosophy. Yes, there's differences. So a lot of argument. That's intellectual level argument. That's something different. Wonderful. More argument, more different views, and synthesize. Very, very helpful in order to expand, in order to grow our human intelligence. Not for fighting. Clear. So practice is concerned, all major religious tradition, same. Thank you. Some my book, like, because of that, all kinships, right? All religious faith. Then some ethics book.
Then the university is something.
Oh, that also good. So I will give you some books. Thank you. Thank you. First. 네.